Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome, Dan.
Hey,
How's,
Tom. It's
how are
so
you
good to
doing?
see you.
Good to see
I
you.
I know. I sorry I got you a little worried. We're
Yeah,
here.
you have me a little bit concerned, but that's okay.
I was here. I'm a little bit honestly a little bit under the weather. I have a slight cold. I feel fine, but my we'll see what happens today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I see you got some of your social medias up, so we're streaming on there as well.
Whew, we did it. I finally I got it working. I can't
That's
you
awesome.
can teach an old dog new tricks, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. Modern technology, right? So again, we're going to welcome everybody else that's online today, and anybody that's watching this video in the future. We're welcoming Dan back, and just thank you for spending some more time with us. I know, about a month ago, we had you on talking disclosure, and it was powerful, and disclosures are powerful. And this time, for those that are joining us, you can ask Dan any questions in the chat, in the comments, put them out there, and we'll either put them up on the screen or share them with Dan as we go along. And I know Michele's backstage helping out with any of the comments that you or questions you guys may have. So feel free to put them up there. I think, Dan, we want to talk a little bit more today. Like I said, last time we went through the disclosure process itself, kind of the nuts and bolts of what a disclosure looks like. And also, before we get to that, Dan is very instrumental in the disclosure process. He has founded with Janice the Kintsugi Recovery Partners, and the disclosure guides for both partners and the disclosing partners, as disclosing guide or the disclosing person. The books are outstanding. The books are helpful. They've invested a lot of time and effort into that and got some great resources. We can put the books up later, or the information for those books are in the chat or in the comments down below in the show notes. So if you're interested in those books, I highly recommend getting them. When we take a couple through disclosure, we definitely have them walk through the books with us. And like I said, last time we went through the nuts and bolts of what a disclosure looks like. And a couple weeks back, or a couple months ago, I think it is by now, that Dan walked us through a exercise called Holding Her Heart. And we'd like to walk through that a little bit with Dan today, and just kind of a regulating or emotional stability, or there's so much emotion that goes through when you do a disclosure, and helping our partners through that, and how we can regulate ourselves. And this heart breathing exercise, when you did that a couple months ago, was just, man, it was just so impactful. And maybe share a little bit about what are some of the tools that both partners can use going through disclosure to help them through the process and stay connected, stay grounded while they're going through this.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. I mean, when I'm preparing someone for a disclosure on the disclosing person's side, I'm gonna say disclosing person or discloser. So if that hopefully that's not confusing.
Right.
But we do a written disclosure process typically. So someone's writing a disclosure. I know when I'm preparing someone, we want to get that document ready to go, which is the one of the big kind of pushes to get done. Yet there's the behavior, the emotional maturity that shows up too, that we have to address too. So it's not just getting a document done, reading a document. It's how do I show up for my partner in a really difficult, because this is going to be read potentially with other support people around. Usually that's how we recommend it, maybe two coaches or therapists to support this couple. So it's a really difficult thing. I'm reading this and it's vulnerable. It's the stuff I didn't want to share. I feel shame about these behaviors. So it's difficult to do, period. So how do I show up in a way that is taking full responsibility without collapsing into shame or getting defensive because it's too overwhelming? So I guess that's part of what we try to do to help support. There's some breathing exercises that both people can do. Actually, in the resources, Janice Cottle has a ton of resources for partners to help kind of regulate their nervous system. So if someone tends to freeze or shut down, there's ways to kind of build you back up to stay present. If someone tends to get really anxious, hypervigilant, to kind of calm your nervous system. So there's a lot of different things that we can do. But I think there's something for the disclosing person. It's a really, how do I have this energy and posture of being strong I'm coming in strong, not like a puddle on the floor, but also open and vulnerable. The
Mhm.
mix of that is really difficult because some people come in strong and then they, I'm and then they get defensive because they're afraid of whatever's going to come and they're going to get attacked
Right.
from their partner. So they're coming in bracing for attack or something. That
Mhm.
posture, they're already sort of defended and protected. We don't want that because we want some openness. And yet the person who comes in all open and no strength, they tend to collapse into shame and they don't really stay present either. So how do we have both that mix, which is really hard? I think,
Right.
I work primarily with male disclosures. It's
Mhm.
hard for men to do that, have this posture of strength uh, and openness and vulnerability simultaneously.
Is this something they can just kind of flip a switch, or is this something that takes intentionality?
I don't
Kind
think
of
you can flip a
I don't know the
switch.
answer
I
to
mean,
that.
I think it takes practice. Some people may naturally have had some of that, but I think most of us don't. We don't naturally get that. We end
Right.
up we
Mhm.
are trained one way or the other. We tend to be maybe either we're tend to go towards sensitivity and vulnerability, or we tend to go towards strength and traditional masculinity.
Right.
So I think it does take some training for sure.
Mhm. Yeah. And it's not something you can just train in 2 or 3 weeks. It's something you gotta work through the entire process
I
as
think
you
so.
start to finish. I think it's so instrumental when if you are kind of muscle memory, to be able to deflect or just defer to that when you're going through that tough situation. So many guys react instead of respond, and I think being able to
Right.
play themselves. I know there was another thing in your book, um, I don't know, you had a lot of misconceptions too, but there's some other breathing exercises you do and tactical breathing and things like that, and they're all things that you would practice before you actually get into the disclosure, right?
Oh yeah, because I we want to hopefully build the practice when we're not distressed, so that when we are
Mhm,
distressed, we can actually use it. It's kind of the
mhm,
same thing for recovery, like a fire drill exercise. When
mhm,
you prepare for in school, growing up, fire drill training, like you want to learn the skill before you actually have to use it in a case of emergency. And so this is
mhm,
the training ground is when you're not distressed, when it feels less uncomfortable, less
right.
unsafe.
Yeah, yeah. What are some of the misconceptions that you see with people going into disclosure or even going into the distress side of it, that they think they can muscle through it? They think they got this, or is it? Which way do you think
Yeah, that's a good
guys, at least
question.
the
For
disclosure?
guys,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I think they can rely on, because many of them have had to learn self-reliance skills. So I think of um, to let somebody in. I'm here like as a guide. I'm actually here to
Mm,
support you, to
right.
help guide the person. I'm here as your support. I've had some people that don't want to do that. They want to, like, no, I got this on my own because
Hmm.
for whatever reason, people weren't safe in my life. I couldn't depend on others, or I'm a man, I don't need other people to help me, or whatever it is.
Right.
But I think, yes, it's allowing people to support. And yeah, if you come in trying to just muscle through
Wing it.
it, if you try and wing it or try and muscle through it, it doesn't usually work, because that's most likely going to be bracing for a fight, as opposed to having again, like that, the mix of strength and
Hmm.
vulnerability.
Hmm. Do you see a lot of people try to wing it, try to go through it on their own? Say they've done full disclosure, and the spouse comes back or the partner says, "I don't feel like I have it all," or
Oh,
they
like
think they
before they
know it.
get to someone like
Yeah,
me or you?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's usually the case. But
Mhm,
oftentimes, if people do, and that's my big, I'm all for full disclosure. Generally, it's not usually full. It's usually either too much information or too little information that someone
mhm.
shares. Usually, it's not. They share staggered pieces of information, is what usually happens.
Yeah, we've been seeing that a little bit lately too, where they say they've done disclosure, and then we start meeting with a couple, and all of a sudden, she doesn't feel like she felt the whole truth was really disclosed, and it was just a staggered disclosure, a confessional, really not a
Yeah,
disclosure,
right.
and then they actually go through the whole process again, and a lot of people do that, I think, just to really go through it and get the whole truth and feel confident they do have that.
And I don't know in your experience, but yeah, I see that. I often find in the more thorough, which is why I like doing a written disclosure, because I think in writing it, I more often than not, I find the people I work with, they're surprised by, they're surprised by their history. They
Mhm.
what they shared. Sometimes it's not even that they had lied or withheld stuff from their partner. It's that they really undersold, or they kind of, for themselves, they kind of minimize the extent of it. And when they actually go back and look at the history, it's more extreme than they even wanted to believe. So in
Mhm.
some ways, it's actually helpful for them to start to see, oh, yeah, this is a lot bigger of a deal than I even wanted to think it
Yeah.
was.
Reality sets in, huh?
It does, and it's hard, and it's a hard reality, but
Mhm.
I think that's one of the most helpful things to start with. I don't, it's that breaking through denial. Yep, this is a problem. It became a problem for you and for your
Mhm.
relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of guys that said, "Yeah, I told her everything. She knows it all." He starts going through his disclosure, and, a little bit more than I thought too. And when they start taking those boxes down off the shelf and opening up, wow, there's a little bit more than I thought.
I think of it one disclosure I've done. I think maybe there are more, but there's only one I can think of where it was literally the information that the person
Everything.
shared was everything.
Mhm.
I think of
Mhm.
one.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So, and on these breathing exercises, like the holding her heart, or we called it the lion heart breathing,
Yeah.
and that's pretty cool. It was really, really instrumental, I think. And do you suggest they do this after disclosure too? Is this something? Is this a tool that they can use continually, or is this more for the disclosing process?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was surprised, to be honest with you. So I'm just going to give credit to Janice Cottle. She created
Mhm.
most of that exercise, and I gave input, and we collaborated with it. I just like, let me try and use this in a different setting outside of disclosure, and I found it really helpful. And it was
Mhm.
mainly for what happens where I think some couples get stuck later is when the partner is trying to express their pain and grief over the
Mhm.
impact of of the actions.
Mhm.
um, that's hard for a lot of guys to hold space for their partner's pain.
It sure
So
is.
she's mad, I'm bad, or we've already been down this road and I don't want to go
Mhm.
there down, whatever. So there's a um um so anyway, there's this place where I think if I can come into that scenario where this person has the openness to now hold space for the partner's grief and pain, that actually becomes really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. The tendency, I think, is a lot of guys. Well, I shared it all. Let's move
Right.
on. Let's put it
But
behind us.
but again, content versus process.
Mhm.
Grief isn't grief is not processed through a one-time transfer of information. It's not just the transfer of information. It's also, think of, if I'm trying to digest this big experience that I went through on the partner side, the betrayed side, um, I'm not going to get information and then just, okay, now I've processed it. Now I'm done with it. I'm going to integrate it in different ways. Maybe I'm seeing things through the lens of how I was impacted, my physical sexuality was impacted, or body was impacted. Maybe it's also how relationships were impacted, how my spirituality was impacted, how my community was impacted. So there's
Mhm.
all different layers, and that comes in different times, and we digest it over
Yeah.
time differently.
What, what, I know everybody's different, but what has your experience been with the grieving process? How long does that take? What's it look like?
I hate those questions. That's such a good
Uh,
question. I don't know. It's different, and it's different because I think every relationship's different. There's this, I mean, everyone hears the 3 to 5 years number that gets
Mhm.
thrown out there. What does that mean? When is grief ever done? I don't think it's done. And I use this example. God forbid someone loses a child. Are you
Yeah.
done grieving the loss of a child at some point? No. I think the devastation, maybe the acute pain of it, maybe lessens over time. But you're never going to get
Mhm.
over it. You're going to move through it. You're going to grieve. You're going to process, and it'll look different years from now than it does now. But I think there's always this, when there's a relational or attachment injury, there's always something that will be a reminder or triggers potentially in the future. Which I
Mhm.
don't mean that in a hopeless way, like, oh, we're
Right.
always going to be here. No, I mean, I actually think what happens is, um, there's grief on all parts. So the addict, or the person who's just doing the disclosing, they have their own grief over the actions they've done and the
Mhm.
impact and what they've maybe been, the trauma they've experienced. The betrayed partner has their grief story. Then I think what moves into more couples grief, that what these behaviors, what the addiction took from us as a couple.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's how I don't know how you see it, but that's how I
Yeah.
just see there's couples grieving, like, and then I think once they can grieve together, they can start to heal, and the relationship becomes stronger than it even was
Yeah,
before.
for sure. See that a lot. I mean, it's a journey, it's not a destination, as we always say, and it's always ongoing. You don't always have to be defined by this. You don't forget about it. It's part of your past, but it really doesn't have to be what defines you going forward. The restoration, and that's what Michelle and I found is just extremely beneficial. It's not what we designed, what we thought we were going to go through. It's not what we chose to go through. Um, but in the end, our relationship, I feel, and I think most relationships, there's always some that aren't going to make it through the process, but working the tools and going through it just creates a whole different relationship and a relational dynamic. And you can persevere through it and be better for it.
I agree.
Purpose in
I
the
agree.
pain. Yeah.
It's hard to
Anybody
see
out there?
in the middle of it, right? Or the beginning. It's hard to
Mm,
see that. And it
it
just
is.
sounds like someone's words and you're not feeling it. But I think that's why having other people, having a community around you that of people that have been down the road, and that can give you hope and inspiration when it
Oh
feels
yeah.
dark.
Yeah. 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 Definitely got to give hope, and it's a tough journey, but it's one worth taking. So these exercises, emotional regulation, things like that, is um, I know this Lionheart holding her heart in the book, and if you haven't seen Dan's book, definitely get it. It's on the show notes below. You can get it down there. Dan's website, Janice's website's down there as well. Um, but I think it's a pretty extensive book with lots of different tools. This
That's a good way to
heartbreaking,
put it.
yeah. It's definitely a collection of a lot of tools, a lot of very helpful tools. And this one, on page 281, I think, in the book, you have it broken down into two different segments. You want to explain a little bit about? There you go. There's the books.
All right.
It-
Yeah. So the goal of this is, and I'm just going to use these terms, but it's the goal of these exercises is to build self-regulation so that you can build co-regulation. So
Mhm.
what meaning, if I'm trying to support another person, and in this case, it's my betrayed partner through a disclosure, or through an experience where I'm trying to hold space for them. If
Mhm.
I'm not regulated, if I can't take care of myself first, I'm not going to be able to support them. So if I'm in shame, I'm in my own stuff and my own self. I'm actually more focused on me because I'm in so much pain. I'm not able to be empathetic or supportive of my partner. So the whole
Mhm.
goal of these, the way these are two separated, so I can move from, building connection with myself, self-regulation, so that I can build empathy, and then ultimately compassion for my partner, so I can hold
Mhm.
space for her.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of guys struggle with that,
A lot of
for
guys
sure.
struggle with it, but that's why it has to start with here first. And
Yeah.
some people I don't have emotional awareness at all. I don't know what I'm feeling, or I know
Mhm.
that I feel anger, and sometimes I don't know. It's not very nuanced. So we have to also learn how to take care of ourselves in a healthier way
Mhm.
first.
Yeah. What is the background of this particular exercise? Is it you said it's something Janice came up with, you guys came up together, or how did
Yeah,
you come up with something? This is pretty in-depth exercise, and it takes, what, 5-10 minutes to go through.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, the whole
first
thing,
one.
and we can go through.
Yeah.
I'll skip some of the stuff. I won't read every single thing in there. I'll probably adapt it and not do it
Mm,
just for disclosure, because I think it applies outside of disclosure too. I think actually I find myself doing this if I'm feeling like, my wife is bringing something. It's a way for me also to, okay, if there's something that's good, how do I ground myself so that I don't get defensive? I can actually hold space for her, what she needs, and it
mhm.
could be anything, even small
Right.
stuff, not let alone the big stuff like a disclosure.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is again getting connected. It's somatic, so getting connected with your body, your breathing, really connected with your body and grounded first here and centered here, and then reassured, so that, and I'm going to use this because that's what we'll be doing, but that's where I can now hold I can hold my own heart, so that I can actually ultimately hold my partner's vulnerable heart through,
Mhm.
through
Mhm.
something difficult. So that's kind of the thinking with it.
That's good. That's good stuff. All right. How do you want to Or let's just see if anybody has any comments or questions first. If you want to put it out there in the comments box for Dan, I don't see any yet, but if anybody wants to,
Okay.
feel free to jump in. If not, we'll get Dan to walk us through this exercise. I know it's pretty good. Like I said, when we did your training, it was phenomenal just to sit there. And just to hear you. I couldn't tell if you were reading it or if you had it memorized, but you did a really good job of it.
Oh, that's good. I was reading / adapting some of it. So hopefully, and my voice isn't my my meditation voice. I guess it's a little bit raspy and I might cough. So I don't know if that's not too distracting.
Well, why don't we do that? Why don't we get you to walk through that exercise? I'm going to put you as a bigger picture and me kind of off on the side, and then you can just walk everybody through it. And we want to put this out there so it can be used not only for the people that are watching now, but for people that watch in the future that can use this as a resource for them and continue to go back to it, if that's okay with you.
Amazing. Yeah, no, actually, absolutely. Yeah. And one thing, I didn't do myself any favors. I actually have one at home that I was using, but I forgot to bring it today. If you can search online or find, I recommend if you can get something about a pound, it could be like a paperweight type thing, but I actually have a stone heart and it's, there's different kinds of stones. So I personally like obsidian, but that's black. So it's not the, you may not want that, but if you can have that. So if you're doing this, we'll do it in the second exercise, but if you have something that you can actually, turn to and actually use to put into your hand, that will represent your partner's heart, which is, it's nice to not just have your air, but if you can have something that's about a pound, because that's roughly the weight of the heart. So if you can have something ready, if you don't have it,
recommend like a squeezy
you
thing?
Could. It's, I mean,
more something
you want to squeeze her heart. But I think I have, it's roughly this kind of size of your palm. And it when you use it, there's something that you can feel. There's just some substance with it. But if you don't have it, that's fine right now.
I got a rock.
You got a rock. Perfect. Love it. But that you can have that has some weight to it. But I think first, if we can just get into it, however you feel comfortable. I usually recommend people close their eyes just so they don't get distracted. But if that doesn't feel comfortable, you don't have to. I'm just going to close my eyes. We'll open them to read in a minute. But just we don't spend much time, and I think women are better at this than men, but men don't often really slow down to kind of connect. We kind of do stuff and we don't slow down to connect with our experience in the moment, our body. So if you're sitting, however you are, if you're standing, sitting, just connect to, can you feel your feet on the floor? Just that connection between you're grounded, you're rooted to the floor. Can you feel just what that sensation's like? The sensation of your body on the chair. Do you feel held by the chair? Get connected with, do you notice, just as you're kind of in your body, do you notice anything? Are you, is this hard to even do, to get into your body? Some people resist it. Some people get distracted. It's okay if you get distracted too. My recommendation, it's been very helpful for me hearing like meditators say, being present. The goal isn't being present, it's returning to present. So if you get distracted, that's completely fine. You can always return to present. But just noticing that experience of being held by the chair, the couch, wherever you are, you're rooted. And just bring your attention to your breath. We don't always think about our breath, but as you breathe up, kind of stretch up your spine on an inhale. And then as you exhale, just slowly let that, that's a downward motion. Just imagine like the tension settling a little bit more from your body. So just mindfulness, breath traveling up your spine as you inhale with alertness and settling on the downward motion with the exhale. Just notice what that sensation is like, what that experience is like as you kind of get connected with your breath. And hold deep, if you can, a little deeper, full breath into your belly. Let your belly loosen. Warrior lines on your face. Just let your kind of self settle more fully, deeply into wherever you are. I'm going to add this in if that's okay. There's different types of breathing exercises, but in the books we talk also about tactical breathing or box breathing. It's a very simple thing. I find, and keep it simple so I can remember. But we're just going to do, it's basically breathe in for 4 count, hold for 4, breathe out for a 4 count, and then rest for a 4 count. It just gets us to kind of pay more attention to our breath and settling a little more too. So let's just do that breathing together. So breathing in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, rest, 2, 3, 4, breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, rest, 2, 3, 4, breathe in and hold, breathe out and rest. Breathe, hold, breathe out, and rest. And now just breathe. Let your breath come as it needs to. You don't have to keep that same rhythm if you don't want to, but just notice that the flow of your breath settle a little bit more deeply. And some people will find that makes them anxious to try and do this thing because they're not used to it. Some people may have fallen asleep already. It's okay. Just come back. And we're just going to do just a brief exercise called heart breathing, and then we'll roll into another exercise. As your breath deepens, feel your lungs expand, perhaps noticing the rise of your belly. Taste the freshness of the air as you pull it deep into your body. And as you exhale, continue to feel your body soften. Feel your muscles soften on the outside, your arms, your legs, your face, and soften on the inside, your lungs, your chest, your heart. And now for a brief moment, clench your left hand into a tight fist. Keep your hand in that fist while you track the tension in your fingers and palms up through the strain in your forearm. Can you feel it up to your shoulder? What happens in your breath as you continue to hold the tension in your fist? And what do you notice in your heart? Can you feel the contraction and tightness in your chest and heart while you notice the contraction of your fist? And now with the next big exhale, let all that tension go. Allow your fist to relax and your fingers to slowly unfurl, and let that tension drain away. Let them gently uncurl while you focus your attention on the softening of your hand. Notice the openness of your palm and fingers, and feel that openness as it moves into your forearm and biceps, all the way up your arm. Once again, allow your lungs to expand and your breath to deepen. Notice the openness and spaciousness inside your chest. Become aware of your heart. As you notice the softness and openness in your palm, can you also notice the softness and openness of your heart? Take a few moments to observe this and notice if with each inhale, you can sense your breath flowing into your heart, as if your heart is breathing. And just continue to follow your heart breath. And now, place your right hand over your heart, directly onto your skin if possible. Take a few moments to observe the sensations in your body as your hand holds your heart while you tune to the rhythm of your heart breath. What do you notice between your hand and your heart? Can you sense a temperature? Can you begin to feel a gentle beat of your heart? Is it in rhythm with your heart breath? Can you feel a growing warmth as your hand holds your heart? If so, is the warmth flowing down from your hand and seeping into your chest, deeper and deeper, until it enters and fills your heart? Or is the warmth coming from your heart center and radiating outward through the muscles of your chest, warmth rising up through the layers of the skin until it gently meets your hand and is absorbed into the hand through your palm? Feel the soothing of your heart as it takes in the support of your hand. Let the touch of your hand communicate a sense of security and protection. And now feel your heart breathe that in. Notice the flow of protection and security as it flows between your hand and your heart. And notice if a particular color or image comes to mind. If so, take note of what that image is and return to attending to the feeling of your hand holding your heart. If your hand could speak, what words would it say? And if your heart could listen, how would it want to respond? Now, focusing your attention in your hand, allow it to express a sense of comfort, reassurance, and compassion to your heart. And follow your heart breath as comfort, reassurance, and compassion flow between your hand and your heart. Notice if a particular color or image comes to mind. And once again, return to the sensation of your hand holding your heart. If your hand could speak, what words would it say? And if your heart could listen, how would it want to respond? Now let your hand transmit strength and courage into your heart. Allow your heart to breathe deeply, taking in that message of strength and courage until it completely fills your heart. Feel strength and courage that now swells in your heart and radiates outward, surrounding your heart in a ring of valor. Notice if a particular color or image comes to mind. And if your heart could listen, how would it want to respond? Just notice your responses without needing to be distracted by them. Allow those thoughts to move in and then out of your mind by returning to the sensation of holding your heart and following your heart breath. Notice how you can take in and hold the qualities of security, protection, comfort, reassurance, and compassion in combination with strength and courage. Notice how your palm can remain open and soft, yet supportive and nurturing as it holds your heart. Notice how your heart can hold all of those gifts while remaining soft and open as well. We call this being lion-hearted. A lion heart helps you face vulnerable situations in the dark corners of our own soul with a sense of security and protection. It provides comfort, reassurance, and compassion when your spirit most needs it. Like the noblest knights of old, your lion heart can provide a secure base for you to face difficult battles and stand for your most important values from a place of self-compassion. When you're lion-hearted, like the palm of your hand holding your heart, you can allow your heart to remain open and soft. You can find courage in vulnerability. A lion heart not only listens, it speaks. And just take some moments to hold your heart while you follow your heart breath. Notice the pleasant sensations in your heart, your mind, and your body. Imagine you can create a body memory of these positive aspects of attending to your lion heart. Bookmark this place deep within yourself so you can return here over and over. And now we're going to shift to the next part, which is holding her heart. From this place of connection with your heart breath and the strength, security, comfort, reassurance, and compassion, gently held by strength and courage, you embrace your lion heart. And just as you can hold your own heart with courage, you can also use your lion heart to hold up your partner's vulnerable heart. And notice this is metaphorical. This exercise isn't about doing something physical to your partner or trying to change her heart attitude in any way. It's a way to shift our own heart and attitude and connection to your partner. Let's start by returning your awareness to your right hand holding your heart and the flow between your hand and your heart. As you attend to your heart breath, just continue following your heart breath until you can feel that connection with your lion heart. Stay connected with that. And now, in a comfortable way, hold your left arm in front of you with your palm facing up. You can rest it on something if you need to. We'll be holding it like this for a bit. Think of a time when your partner was in a vulnerable state, perhaps sad, maybe frightened, maybe angry, maybe even hurting about a betrayal by you. Does this feel uncomfortable? If so, where in your body do you feel the distress? And how do you notice it? Return your attention back to your right hand holding your heart and the connection with your heart breath and your lion heart. Allow the energy in your heart to gently flow to that area of distress. Let your lion heart pulse out security, comfort, reassurance, and compassion, anchored in strength and courage, into that area until the distress softens and then melts away. Know that you can return to your heart breath anytime distress comes up and blocks your way from holding up your partner's heart. Now visualize your partner across from you in that vulnerable state. Imagine that you can gently reach your left hand into her body, moving it tenderly under her heart. Just let it rest there until you feel the weight of her vulnerable heart drop into the palm of your hand. And if you do have a stone or a weighted object, this would be the time to put it in your left hand. Just feel that weight of her heart as you support it. Feel into your own heart breath and notice what it's like to be connected to your own heart as you connect to hers. And now, as your hand cradles her vulnerable heart, envision your own lion heart communicating security, comfort, reassurance, and compassion, anchored in strength and courage. See those qualities flowing from your lion heart, flowing down your arm and into your hand. Notice how those qualities feel in your hand as you hold her heart. And with the next heart breath, feel all those gifts radiate from your hand and into her heart. Remember this feeling in your body of connecting to your lion heart while holding her heart. Bookmark this place deeply within yourself. Make it a deep well so you can return here and draw from it over and over. And now gently pull your attention to your feet on the floor and the ground that's supporting you. Slowly pull your attention more and more into the outer world around you. And this is something to continue practicing. This feeling the breath of your lion heart while holding her heart. You may just want to keep practicing this on your own another time until that pathway becomes familiar. But for now, we're going to return to this space wherever you are, to the room around you. Just start to notice the things you can feel. If it feels comfortable, to slowly open your eyes. Let your eyes travel where they need to go in the room. Notice textures and colors and shapes. Notice anything you hear in your environment, or smell or taste. And just come more fully back to this moment right now. And settle. There it is.
There it is. Thank you, Dan.
Did you do it?
I did do it. I was doing it with you. That was as impactful the second time as it was the first time we did it.
Yeah?
Yeah. And I don't remember. One thing stuck out to me. Well, a couple things. Two things was you emphasized in the belly, not in your chest. Not breathing in your chest. There's more belly breathing. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To start.
Yeah. And actually your left hand holding her heart. Actually envisioning as if you're holding her heart physically. You know.
I find it if some people may get hung up on words, or that, it seems like it's hard to do. It's, we don't usually do these kinds of things. It may feel foreign, but I think if you can just take the spirit of it and not get too distracted, if it's distracting, just this idea of I can connect with myself. I hope that's what people could experience. I could connect with myself. I have that openness and strength we talked about, and then I can transmit that to my partner. There's something that it moves me each time to think, because I don't know about you, but so often I'm in kind of self-protective mode. I'm not in this place of really, really trying to tenderly hold and support and care for my wife or others around me. Like, that sounds, I hate to say that, but if that's the honest truth.
Right.
And when we can really do this, just how powerful that can be. So
yeah, definitely.
Especially in these difficult times, after especially after healing from betrayal, it's difficult. It's messy, but the more we can work on doing that, you talk about how long the grief. I promise you, how long does it take? If we can hold space for partner's grief, it goes a lot quicker than if I keep getting defensive or I can't hold that space. Because usually grief, especially this kind of thing, needs support.
Space.
Yeah, and space.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I don't know if anybody had any comments. We'd love to hear, if people had any comments to that. reactions to that, feelings through that exercise, whether it's now or in the recording replay, just feel free to put them in the comments, and Dan or I can reach out to you and definitely talk more about it. Just impactful. The one struggle I see is getting guys that really struggle with this to invest in it.
What do you think the big struggle is? What's the barrier? Pride?
Mm-hmm.
This is too
what's his name?
touchy-feely?
Yeah, kind of.
Weak?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Soft?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
If there's another way to do it in terms of healing support through healing grief, just through strength without vulnerability, let me know.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Not going to happen.
It doesn't happen. And that's why I think this exercise isn't saying you can come for lack of better words, masculine. You can come strong. You can come, but there's strength and vulnerability. That's what I think the beauty of this kind of a thing is. If we can,
that's what they need to know. Yeah, they can have strength and vulnerability at the same time. A lot of guys resist
most guys, I don't know for you, but most guys are actually pretty sensitive. They just don't want to own it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the pride.
Not everybody. I think everybody has sensitivity.
I don't want to show it. Yeah, that's good stuff. So, yeah, it's awesome. I appreciate your time and effort, Dan, spending with us again. I know lots of work to do for a lot of people going through this, and definitely encourage anybody that has any more questions to reach out to Dan. Like I said, his comments or his information, email, phone numbers, all in the show notes down below. The links to the books are down there. Janice and Dan. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna say, I mean, and I would just encourage anybody. So this kind of exercise, I know it's hard. Hopefully I'm actually glad we did it in this format, because reading an exercise and trying to get into it at the same time is pretty tough. So I'm glad we have this.
Yeah.
I would encourage, if like some couples do couples check-ins or couples therapy or the bigger things like disclosure or impact letter. But I would just encourage you, if let's say, you have a check-in, scheduled check-in with your partner, do this. It doesn't take that long to kind of get back into it. But imagine how you show up in this as opposed to, I'm going to have to do a check-in on what's going on. Like, if you can come with that hard attitude, it's going to go a lot better. There's going to be a connection that happens. That's just that it can be really healing and powerful. So
I do remember in that one exercise you did through the training, you were actually sitting there with the guy as he was going through, I believe, listening to our impact letter.
Yeah.
And you were having him open his hand,
he didn't want to do it. Yeah. I know it's a little awkward to do, but I think he needed to see that to kind of keep himself. Because if the goal is to be there for my partner, but I can't take care of myself in the moment, then I'm already abandoned her. So
yeah, that's so good. So good. All right. Any other thoughts that you have before we sign off? Words of encouragement.
No, this is not natural for most of us. So I just, if it feels foreign, if you find yourself resisting any of this piece, if it's the words, fine, change words that fit for you. If there's something that doesn't work, but if someone's resistant to doing it, it's worth looking at why. What is that about? Like you said, is it pride? Is it something else that keeps me there? But I think that energy, this kind of the heart attitude. I was reading it, and I feel different now than I did before we started, and that was I can't even imagine on the other end. So this can't be a bad thing. There's something about it that if we can just keep that energy, it's just encouragement. This is not it doesn't mean everything's all going to magically get perfect. This is difficult, but starting from this posture will make things go so much better. So,
oh, look at that, Jason. Thank you for reaching out.
Cool. Thanks. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And it, like you said, to do it in this format, to be able to have this as a resource now, to be able to sit through this. Now it's not about somebody reading it to you. Now it's about sitting here, listening to it while you practice it.
And the other encouragement too, my voice is one thing, but try, if you want to, record it in your own voice. Or someone that's a trusted person for you. If you don't if you have someone that you're in relationship with, that's a safe person, not necessarily your partner, but someone that or yourself, if you want to have this recorded, that you can listen to it or some pieces of it, I think could be really helpful.
That's awesome. Appreciate it. All right, Dan, thanks again for your time. Appreciate
Thanks,
it as
Tom.
always. Hope to have you back again sometime soon, and we'll find something else to talk about.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Appreciate what you do.
All right, you too. Thanks again.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.